You understood the subtitle, but still missed the conversation. Welcome to the English Accelerator Lab podcast series. I'm Kale, and today we're talking about one of the biggest differences between textbook English and real English: hidden meaning inside Netflix dialogue. Because native speakers almost never say exactly what they feel directly. They hide emotion inside tone, sarcasm, pauses, soft words, indirect phrases, and learners usually understand the dictionary meaning, but completely miss the human meaning.
I'm Zavara, and honestly, this is where advanced listening really begins, because there's a huge moment every learner experiences while watching English shows. You understand every individual word, but somehow you still don't understand the scene emotionally. And that happens because subtitles show language, but native speakers are communicating attitude, tension, awkwardness, sarcasm, passive aggression, embarrassment, attraction, frustration.
Exactly. And once you start noticing this, you realize Netflix dialogue is basically emotional chess. People rarely speak directly, especially in American and British shows. And honestly, one of the first scenes that changed this for me was a very simple office conversation. One character walks into a meeting late, sits down quietly, and says, "Sorry, traffic was insane." Simple subtitle, right? But then the boss replies, "Must be nice."
Yes, and learners usually hear that and think, oh, maybe the boss is saying traffic must be nice. No, the boss is actually irritated, sarcastic, maybe even angry. What he really means is, nice excuse, good for you, you're late again.
Exactly. And this happens constantly in Netflix shows, especially workplace dramas. The subtitle sounds polite, but emotionally, the sentence is aggressive.
And here's the important part learners miss. Native speakers detect emotional tone immediately. They don't analyze grammar first. They hear stress, facial expression, pacing, pauses.
And honestly, one of the most dangerous phrases learners misunderstand is interesting. Because depending on tone, that word becomes completely different emotionally. Listen to these situations. Somebody shows their painting. You smile warmly and say, "That's interesting," meaning, "I genuinely like this." But someone at work presents a horrible business idea, and the manager says slowly, "Interesting." Brother, the project is dead.
Exactly. And Netflix loves this style of emotional ambiguity, especially in political dramas, crime shows, business series. Characters almost never say direct things like, that idea is terrible. Instead, they soften everything socially.
And British shows are even more dangerous with this, because British English often hides criticism inside politeness. For example, "That's quite brave." Learners think, "Oh wow, encouragement." Sometimes no. Sometimes it secretly means, "That's a terrible decision."
British sarcasm is basically advanced level listening practice because the words and emotions often move in opposite directions.
And honestly, dating scenes in Netflix shows are another goldmine for hidden English, because attraction is rarely direct. People don't usually say, "I'm romantically interested in you." They say things like, "So, what are you doing later?" Or, "You're trouble." Or the classic, "I hate you," while smiling.
Yes, and learners get confused because they translate emotionally too literally. They hear, "I hate you," and think the relationship is ending. Meanwhile, the characters are literally flirting.
And one of the funniest misunderstandings happens with, "You're impossible." Depending on tone, that sentence can mean you're annoying, you're difficult, you're adorable, I'm attracted to you. Same words, completely different emotional meaning.
That's why fluent listening is emotional interpretation, not vocabulary collection.
And Netflix also teaches something really important: how native speakers avoid uncomfortable honesty directly. For example, somebody cooks horrible food. Nobody says, "This tastes terrible." Instead, they say, that's different," or "Wow, that's interesting." Or they suddenly drink lots of water silently.
That fake positive reaction is extremely common socially, especially in American English, because native speakers often prioritize emotional comfort over direct honesty.
And learners completely miss these moments sometimes, because subtitles don't explain hidden discomfort. They only show literal words.
And another huge Netflix pattern learners should study is passive-aggressive English. This appears constantly in friendships, offices, family dramas.
Oh, yes. Especially sentences like, "No worries." Because depending on tone, it can secretly mean, "I'm completely okay," or "I'm definitely not okay, but I don't want to argue anymore."
And you only understand that difference through emotional context, not vocabulary.
And honestly, one phrase confused me for years in shows. "We'll see." I thought it meant genuine future planning. No. Sometimes it secretly means "probably not," or "I don't want to say no directly."
Indirect refusal is one of the biggest hidden systems inside native English conversations, because saying no directly often sounds too harsh socially.
Exactly. So native speakers create emotional cushions. Instead of "no," they say, "I'll think about it. Maybe. We'll see." That could be difficult. And learners think plans are still alive. Meanwhile, the plan died 3 scenes ago.
And once you start hearing those patterns, Netflix suddenly becomes an English psychology lesson, not just entertainment.
And honestly, the scariest thing is, once you notice hidden subtitles, you can never unhear them again. Because suddenly, every pause, every "right," every "sure," every fake smile starts carrying emotional meaning.
And that's where real fluency begins. Not when you understand the subtitle, when you understand the person behind the subtitle.
And this gets even crazier in fast group conversations, especially argument scenes. Because now sarcasm, interruptions, emotional reactions, and hidden meaning all happen together at high speed.
And this is where learners suddenly feel lost during Netflix scenes, because now conversations become layered. People interrupt each other, hide emotions, change tones suddenly, use sarcasm, avoid direct answers. And if you only listen literally, the entire scene becomes confusing.
Argument scenes are probably the best example of this, because native speakers rarely fight directly at first. They fight indirectly. One person says something small, the other reacts emotionally, and learners sit there thinking, "Wait, why is everyone angry now?"
Because emotionally, the real meaning was hidden underneath the sentence.
For example, imagine a couple in a Netflix drama. One person says, "Wow, you're home early." Learners think, "Oh, nice observation." No. Sometimes that sentence secretly means, "Why are you here? You usually stay late. What happened?" Same subtitle, different emotional meaning.
Native speakers catch those emotional signals immediately, without translating them consciously.
And one word Netflix uses constantly is sure, which changes completely depending on tone. Sure can mean yes, I guess, I'm annoyed, I'm pretending to agree.
That cold sure during arguments is usually emotional shutdown, not agreement.
And learners miss this all the time. Someone says, sure, whatever you want. And learners think the argument ended peacefully. Meanwhile, emotionally, everything just got worse.
And this hidden emotional English appears constantly in family dramas too.
Especially when parents say, I'm not angry, while sounding extremely angry. Every native speaker immediately understands the real meaning.
The words say one thing, the tone says another.
And silence itself becomes language in Netflix dialogue. Sometimes somebody simply says, so. Then nobody talks for 3 seconds. That silence communicates awkwardness, disappointment, tension.
Pauses are emotional subtitles.
And awkward dinner scenes show this perfectly. Nobody discusses the real problem directly. Instead, someone suddenly asks, so, how's work? Which secretly means, let's avoid the disaster happening at this table.
That indirect emotional communication is deeply built into English-speaking culture.
Another dangerous phrase is, that's crazy, because learners think something unbelievable happened, but native speakers use it for almost everything. I lost my keys. That's crazy. My cat opened the fridge. That's crazy. Sometimes it simply means, I'm listening.
Words in casual English often become emotional reactions, not literal meanings.
And comedy shows make this even harder, because humor often depends on sarcasm, understatement, or awkward pauses. British humor especially loves understatement. Huge disaster happens, and somebody calmly says, well, that could have gone better.
Meanwhile, everything around them is completely falling apart.
And learners who translate literally miss the joke completely, because the humor lives inside emotional contrast.
That's why advanced listening is emotional decoding, not vocabulary memorization.
And once I understood that, my listening changed.
That single shift changes how you watch every English show forever.
So next time you watch Netflix, don't just read subtitles. Watch reactions, tone, pauses, facial expressions, because hidden English lives there.
That's where native level understanding actually begins.
We'll see you in the next lesson.